So, I have some announcements before this video starts. Well, primarily one. Major new development. So, to cut right to it, 2 videos ago, or 2 long videos ago, in my video titled, "This World is Unconsentful," towards the end, I will have mentioned, and I alluded to it in the last part of Exploring the Viz, that I was undertaking a major sociological investigation of mine, wherein which, come the end of April, I would be attempting to infiltrate a prominent private corporation here in the city of Lévis, Quebec, Canada. I discussed how I had been preparing for it in what ways I could, leading up to the end of the month. And that it is most likely going to be the most dangerous thing I will have done in my life so far. Well, as of having some time yesterday to reflect and think things over a little more, and actually go over my self-made schedule of the other endeavors I wanted to get done whilst being here in the city before leaving come the first week of May. Well, my plans have altered to some degree. I'm not giving up on this investigation. Yes, I am still absolutely determined to go through with it, to see it through. However, I've decided not before leaving Lévis. And I'll briefly explain why. Well, simply put, with all the other things that I've been getting up to in terms of my social research and things regarding my theories, my theoretical work, and me actually sending them off via emails to certain individuals, but I'll talk about that towards the end of the video. Well, one, I realized that in me wanting to get this done, or go through with it by the end of the month, to do it properly, with very much minor setbacks, to actually properly prepare for what I'm undertaking for myself, there's no way. That is completely unrealistic, as it's already April 20th. And even though I have been preparing for this investigation, it's definitely not enough. I'm still very much in the early stages of preparation. I need a lot more time, and with my finances where they are right now, I'd be cutting some things very close for what I need in terms of watching my spending. So there's that. The timeline of when I wanted to see this through is completely I was underestimating how much I would need to prepare for this. And two, with this little mission of mine, I was being I think overall I've just been being very hasty with it. I think after me standing up to my former employer, as of current, my last former employer, the farming landlord of St. Paul de Montmagny, 3 months ago. Well, I think because of that incident, I've gotten a little ego high, gotten a bit of euphoric rush of, I guess, of confidence. Personality-wise, I got a bit too a bit overly certain of what I could tackle in a specific time frame. And with this, I really do mean it. I need to take extensive precautions in preparing for it. And as I said in the video that I discussed it at the end, I will, no matter how much I prepare, I will have to improvise. I will make mistakes. It's not going to go according to plan at all. I already can foresee that. But, well, anyway, I was being hasty. So, here's my plan alterations. I am not going through with that investigation at the end of the month. I will instead be focusing on my other last bits of explorations here in the city, as well as online work, sending those emails, and come the end of the month, and also saying goodbye to people who I know here in the city, who I've gotten to know. I will be, come that time, just preparing to move out of Lévis and make my way across the connecting bridge over the river to the provincial capital. And I will spend the entirety of the summer over there. I will be doing the same thing in terms of employment. I'll be doing the same thing that I was trying to do here in Lévis. I'll be going around to various small businesses that I can find after getting a well enough observation of them and seeking out a job, as I'm not guaranteed it, obviously, with amounts of the language barrier. It's coming to be summertime. There will be a lot more businesses hiring employees, especially younger individuals, and as I've been told by a plethora of people, given the, well, population demographics, and Quebec City being a far bigger tourist center than Lévis, given the fact that I am predominantly an English speaker, I will have a lot easier of a time in terms of opportunities finding employment over there, most likely. Now, again, one of the reasons I wanted to get this investigation underway now is because, like I said, there's still a good chance that I won't find anything for a while in terms of a job. And if I, well, go flat broke, well, I would have hoped to get this little excursion done. But even if I don't find anything, I will do what I can to muster up the resources possible. And so I will be spending the summer on the North Shore. Then, once the summer is coming to a close in July, I will, for 1 or 2 days, come back here to the city of Lévis, and I will undertake that investigation involving a corporate entity. And on top of that, I've also decided, just the same as here, in Quebec City, I will also be undertaking an investigation of a prominent private corporate location over there. And it will also involve me infiltrating a place, or attempting to, infiltrating said location. The mission of mine in Quebec City will not be near as extensive in terms of the whole, for my investigation of said corporation here in Lévis, trying to actually get myself into said facilities and speaking with executives of the enterprise. It won't be as extensive as that, but it will involve most likely a disguise of some kind, similar to what I want to do here when I eventually come back. So, but anyway, I will cross back over here into Lévis for 2 days, do that investigation, rush back to Quebec City, do the investigation over there of other business entity, and then once all of that is over, I will pack up and I will be gone from the greater Quebec City area and begin heading for the north come early autumn to Labrador City before next winter comes. So that is the alterations that occurred. And it took a lot of pride swallowing to come to that, as I really wanted to get this underway, but I know I need to wait. Frankly, as well, right now with my little adventure over at Ultramar's refinery, and also the fact that I'm currently, here's a bit of news as well. Finally, I am sleeping back outside. Yes, I am back to sleeping in my tent, and I am in a patch of woods on the last part, the federal territory, J.C. Shapai Farm. I've been there for 4 days now, sleeping. And it has been the best sleep I have had in a good while. And I'm very happy about that. But anyway, with my little side quest with all of that, I think I've drawn a little too much attention to myself, and if I was to undertake this investigation coming up in the next week, I will draw way too much attention to myself, and okay. Even from what I've talked about now, anyone who is more observant or can piece together certain things, who knows about the municipal economy of Lévis or the municipal economy of Quebec City, or just the economy of Quebec as a whole, I'm sure there will be those of you who can piece together what two corporations I am alluding to, but I'm still keeping it vague, or I'm keeping them anonymous just in case. So, but anyway, so that was a bit of further news. What's on the agenda for today? Well, going to film today and tomorrow, but today we are going to take a walk further down through the commercial area of the Desjardins district that, well, I showcased an amount of in exploring Lévis Part 2 those months ago, but not an extensive amount, mainly because I have no real interest to showcase any more of that atrocity. But more specifically, a upper middle class area that is tucked behind the commercial area, very much pseudo-segregated. And yeah, we're just going to explore that today. And then tomorrow, I will go down to a park that is a private park, it seems, that is operated by Valéro. Yes, Ultramar's parent company oil transporter here in the city. Yes, and later in the video I will also discuss my thoughts on what I observed over on the federal territory in the last part, as I said I would, as I have some interesting ideas flying around. But let's actually get going down to the area I want to now. Really? One, this is, as many developments are, an unnecessary construction of a housing unit, overly sized. And this is the most unnecessary driveway placement I've ever seen in suburbia thus far. Well, I went in a big circle. I didn't even mean to go down that little court there. I was trying to get further towards Desjardins corporate campus. But, well, apparently there's some more lavish upper middle class housing units down over here, which I did not even know about. Right behind there, with the park that I was just in, it's more standardized middle class real estate, it seems. But right when you get over here, well, actually even here you can kind of see who it's catered to in terms of net worth overall. Well, okay, well, that ended up being somewhat of a, well, interesting find. And this person here, so I'll talk about them in a sec. Let's see if they stop and interrogate me again. No, not this time. So, literally, as I came out of that court, that vehicle, the gray one, I don't know what type it is, pulled up behind me and asked me why was I filming in that area back there. And I just told them, well, I'm a vlogger, which is true. And I go around documenting, taking photos and footage of various areas in the city and where I had come from. And they just asked why specifically over here, and I stated my reasons, because I was over down a ways towards the community center that way and thought it would be interesting. And they just told me, well, there's a lot of thefts that happen in the area. And I just said, oh, really? Wow, I wouldn't know anything about that. And they pulled off. So yeah, and I didn't showcase this in Exploring the Viz Part 2. So, if you recall, right in front of Desjardins Green Tower here, their main building on the campus, there's a road running through it called Rue des Commandeurs. Oh, Rue des Commandants. And when I was here originally, back 6 months ago, I thought that it was the only road that was running through it, which seems to, again, from what I can tell, most definitely be privatized, a part of their private campus. For those who haven't seen that video, it's right below here. Below this, yeah, running from the main boulevard over there all the way to another one on the other end here. Well, technically, I guess just connecting with this street here. But as you can see, I missed this road. There's another one. Now, I don't know if this street is also privatized, but I do know that it runs along the land that would be considered their campus, as this business economics school, which they no doubt fund, is also on their campus property, along with this, well, this is, I'm pretty sure, probably part of the school. Oh no, wait, no, it has the Lévis municipal sigil on it for the signage. Okay, this is on their campus. I'm sure the school uses it. I don't know if this road is privatized or if it is considered public. But yeah, I just thought I'd point that out. And right next to the campus, there is a municipal administrative office of some kind. It might be the counselor's office for the Desjardins district, but I'm not entirely sure as of yet. And frankly, that's not an inquiry of mine that I'm particularly focused on right now. This road is called... Okay, there's no actual signage. Oh no, there is. Right by Rue du Charbonnier. It's called Rue du Vincent Chagnon. Wait, Chagnon. Well, that name is of some significance, as I will showcase a bit later as we get into the commercial area. And actually, speaking of Casse Populaires, private financial campus grounds, there is something in regards to their building placement here that tomorrow I'll demonstrate, as well as I'll go down to further into Old Town, Lévis, to demonstrate just the same, something in regards to the building placement of Fairmont-le-Château Frontenac in Quebec City, that you can, if you're looking for it, or you're more observant to your surroundings, you can pick up on. But I'll save that for the next day. Interestingly enough, I also think that this very much lower middle class, income-wise, are tailored to the residents that predominantly live in it, apartment unit, I think this is actually technically also on Desjardins campus grounds, this little sliver here, as it's clear that, well, one, these are Logisco Corporation developments, but, well, obviously they have pair deals with the development company, Logisco. Seems they granted them building permits for these apartment buildings that are in crumbling condition, granted them privileges to put one of them on this side of non-privatized property. Well, in terms of the road. This is obviously, well, Logisco's. But, because if you look at it from an aerial view, it seems to be actually on the grounds. So, yeah, just a little interesting observation there. Okay, I just noticed this nonsense. I don't know if it was like this before I left Lévis for the village of St. Paul de Montmagny, or if this is new and it was red before. Well, actually, yeah, there's red underneath. Really? You made it green? You had to paint a fire hydrant that was on your property green to match the company color scheme? Really? What a waste. What a disgrace. What a bunch of unflattering bullshittery in my face. Okay, I'm done. Are you serious? These are green as well. The telephone pole cords, the metal cords, to hold it in place, you made these green as well? Because these, in Canada, these are typically yellow, and all over Lévis, they are yellow. The plastic used. They're yellow. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. I'll give you props for really sticking to company design. Green fence. Green fire hydrant. Green plastic coverage of telephone wiring. And also green litter. Oh. Yeah, good job, Dejar. Good job. You know, actually, I'm curious to some degree. What else is green on their property that doesn't need to be green? Oh, not everything, I guess. Hey, you missed a spot, guys. You missed a few. I'm sure they're gonna get right on it. Hey, you know what? Screw it. I'm not concerned with it. I don't abide. Not at the moment particularly interested in what your favorite paint job is at all. So, yeah, I'm not going to show any more of the campus grounds, as I already have done so in parts 2 and 4 to more of an extent. However, I will state, for their building right beside their main office complex, in exploring the Lévis Part 2 that's on the, from here, the right side of it, I was wrong about it being, from what I could tell, the regional management executive building of operations. I think that one is their financial program, well, their program operation base of control. I think the building that is here, this one, what I could gather, is their regional management control center. Obviously, this building over here, right in front of the golf course, the private golf course on their campus, is center of operations for their insurance company division. The building that is, and the two buildings that from here are to the head offices left. One, I believe, is their head of paradeal operations and governmental funding. division for putting out sponsorships and, well, control of lobbying in terms of what they provide payment for into government budgets. And the other building seems to be their chief operations of, well, their executive operations for advertisement. Well, production. So, just a correction of that. And the building that is down towards the other intersection is, well, just a glorified banking branch of theirs that's just oversized and made to look very fancy. Now this is an incredible view. Yes, and needed to mention at some point, I guess, the municipal transit, bus transit stationary building is right next to Desjardins campus. And right beside this wealthy subdivision, which I explored in part 4, so I'm not gonna pay any focus to that. So going into this portion of, well, southern Lévis, it'll become apparent that the area along here is all new developments, roughly within the last, I believe, 3 years or so. 3 or 4. And there hasn't been much, well, urban development or urbanization of this patch of land along here going into the La Zone district. But I don't doubt there's going to be preparations made for, well, some amount of the forest life around here to be torn down. And once we get down here, it'll be interesting to see the contrast, actually, between this neighborhood and, well, from what you will have seen of, if you've watched most of the videos, the rest of the city. As, well, it's quite stark, even more so in terms of, well, modernized North American upper class real estate endeavors than, well, other elitist areas of the city, even something like this portion here. But as I get down there, I will discuss my thoughts on J.C. Shepai Farm. So, in regards to the federal territory, at the end of the last part, I said that I was disturbed. For further context, go watch the video. I was disturbed at how new a lot of not just the hydroelectrical wiring and placements that were decaying and had been destroyed over time by weather, how new they looked for, well, not only the, well, how old the settlement actually was and supposed ongoings of said area, what had been utilized for, but as well as what I hadn't picked up on previous times being through in there was the very clear renovations that had been done to some degree of the actual building structures themselves on the territory. Especially so with that inhabited, very clearly inhabited housing unit that was at the very back end of the property, which, side note, after talking with someone in the local area, I found out that that housing unit is in fact private commercial real estate and not a groundskeeper living on the actual territory, being provided the housing unit by, say, by federal provisions. No, apparently it's a private unit that is registered as being a part of the road that's down below the cliffside, Rue Saint Laurent, that runs along the Lévis waterfront. So that's interesting, but it's private, and the inhabitants, whoever they are, have to actually take the federally restricted road to get onto it. But so I was disturbed, unsettled by the very much newer designs of the structural facilities and the broken, shattered electrical units. Come to think of it, I'm also just realizing about, you saw in the video and when I mentioned it, the telephone towers, the telephone poles that were put up. Either that has relation to the private housing unit on the land, or it has relation to what I'm somewhat suspecting. Now you're probably asking, why was that off-putting to me? Well, okay, so in the history that I detailed in the last part, J.C. Chapai Farm, when it was originally a livestock storage settlement in the late 1800s, it closed down, or stopped being in operation of such, well, going into the 1890s or so. Then it sat abandoned, and in the 1950s era, mid-1900s, I should not be putting my elbow on that. It came under provisional control of the federal government of Canada. Like, directly under the control of Parliament. And for the next for the next 60 years or so, next 6 decades, they did absolutely nothing with it, supposedly, at least from everything that I could find online. There was no reporting of them having actually done anything with the land area. There was no actual usage of it in any way, other than, well, when in seems to be nearly the 1990s, Ultramar/Valero's oil pipeline was placed through the grounds. Now, here's what I'm suspecting, which I talked about in Exploring Lévis Part 1. Just had, well, sector of government wrong. What I suspect happened with not only the seizing of the land, possibly through the process of eminent domain in the 1950s, 1960s or so, and during the same time, the corporate expansion and rise in profitability of Ultramar, with the fact of their, in the 1940s and 50s, their refinery, Jean Galin refinery, being developed in the Hadlow district. Maybe by chance, now, given that it seems the pipeline was built in the 1990s, from the oldest information that I could possibly find, I don't think if during the time that the federal government seized the land, if they were planning on, which I do believe to some degree they were, in collusion, putting it under their control so that it could then be transferred privately into the hands of Ultramar. I don't believe they were initially planning on building a pipeline specifically for easier transportation to the docking areas, to the port, for petroleum tanker ships to go down the St. Lawrence. Well, planning it "40 years before," I don't think so. I don't think that'd be a logical conclusion, but possibly we're originally planning on, one, handing it to them, maybe making an extension, maybe a possible extension to Jean Galin refinery on that land with piping connections, possibly, but for whatever reason, maybe that didn't transpire. Just further explorations, research before leaving the city, I'd like to maybe try and find that out, if there was maybe pushback, if there were plans for that. But anyway, somehow or another, there was very clearly going to be it's very clear, as far as I'm concerned, that the land was seized by the federal government so that Ultramar, and thus Valéro, oil corporations could do something with it. Just do something with it at some point, which eventually ended up culminating in provisions being granted to build the main pipeline through it. right next to the residential homes. And actually, I'm going to get inside and finish talking about this, and then I'll come back to this area. Well, the place that I was trying to get to stand inside for a minute is apparently closed, so I walked down here for no reason, so I'll just keep talking whilst outside. So, clearly, they took control of it for Ultramar to end up eventually having something to do with it. Utilizing the land in some way for corporate profit. And that ended up happening in the later 1990s, it seems, with the building of the pipeline for, and also construction of the oil silo wharf down by the port. For easier transportation loading. As I'm assuming that prior to the existence of the pipeline for, well, obviously Ultramar, with specifically Valéro, transports still via truck, via tanker trucks, and also tanker trains, as I will have showcased. But, as mentioned in the last video, their main in the modern day, main transport route is along the St. Lawrence River via tanker ships carrying refined oil products, mainly already made gasoline. So I'm thinking that prior to the existence of the pipeline being developed, mainly their tanker trucks had to go through, take various routes within the city here to get down to the port so that it could then be loaded on via maybe a construction crane of some kind, or just a loading crane, a loading mechanism of some kind to be placed onto the ships. That's what I'm thinking is how it was for the corporation before it was constructed, the actual piping. And after it was okayed for the development of said piping, it has become a lot easier for, well, obviously, because the petroleum product just goes straight from the refinery all the way down to the loading dock, right through J.C. Shempai Farm. So that's one bit of an observation I made, which is disturbing enough in and of itself in regards to the federal territory. However, that's not the main thing that I was unsettled by in relation to why there was seemingly newer equipment at one point on the property. So, in relation to within the last 3 years of provisional control being transferred from the Canadian federal government out of, well, directly Ottawa Parliament's hands into that of, under the control of the governmental research division of Agri-Food Canada and Agriculture, a research division of Federal Agricultural Ministry, for supposed eventual experimentation of crop growth of some kind, or maybe once again actual livestock there of, I'm sure, many abusive violations. But anyway, as I will have discussed, nothing has been done with that. Because, this is where my theory is going. One, they don't care to use it, it just sits there. They don't care to use the land, it just sits there so that Ultramar's pipeline can sit there in modern day, but also because I think they might have already done that at some point. So, the electrical equipment that I showcased in the footage of Part 6, it definitely was not of (1950s, 1960s, 1970s) time period in terms of wiring and how electrical units were constructed. I actually bothered to look up images of older electrical, more North American electrical units common in Canada, and actually going, because there are various buildings here in the city that are older than, well, older than 2010, look at and haven't been updated in terms of the electrical systems, to actually see, to make a comparison. And so the electrical units that were destroyed there look to be maybe at the oldest late 90s, early 2000s, maybe, or maybe earliest to now mid 2000s, maybe around there. At least to me, from what I can tell. And as for the building structures themselves, the renovations with more, okay, I also have seen images of the farm territory back when it was, I believe, initially abandoned, probably photographs from the early 1900s or 1910s. The actual structures, they were not made of any real, from what I could tell, mass amounts of metal materials, metal scaffolding, or structural support. So that clearly, all of the metal work that was done is clearly newer. Clearly newer. So, what am I thinking? Well, given the newer equipment, given that there's no information online that I can find of any activity being done with done on the territory for the last 60 years, other than the pipeline, given that there were signs, there was signage saying keep out possible respiratory contaminants, the WHMIS symbols for respiratory damage, which I mentioned could have, maybe there was some truthfulness to it, or it was just a security deterrent. Well, I'm going with the possibility of it having some truthfulness to it, even if the security cameras that were there were duds or were not, obviously were not live recordings, were just a form of digital taping. But if there was some truthfulness to that, well, I'm thinking that potentially in the early to mid 2000s, maybe 2001 to 2005, the federal government actually was doing some agricultural activities there that was under tight restriction and heavy censorship from any independent press outlets, and, well, the corporate journalism lobbyists just willingly chose to not report on it in any way. I'm thinking that, given as well as I will have mentioned that something I didn't notice either upon first being there was that the grounds actually did look like they had been tampered with. The soil, it actually looked like there had been some tilling of the earth there, either by some large agricultural equipment of some kind. I'm thinking that during that time period, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture had done construction to the area, put in brand new facilities, revamped the entire place from its initial abandonment, and either were making preparations to, or had to some degree begun doing experimentation on crop pesticide control. Or more specifically, they had begun trying to grow crops. Maybe they had some amount of vegetation already pre-grown and had transported it there, as could be the reason for the completely destroyed tarp structures, the dome structures that were barely still standing with the cracked wooden tables with the shrub life, the stems growing out of them. That could be the reasoning for those being there, of already pre-grown crops transported to the facilities, and we're going to conduct testing of very harsh, very ecologically destructive, and very, very cheaply manufactured and potentially profitable chemical pesticides on crops for corporate factory farming. That is a theory that I'm running with. And then, I don't obviously know how, if this is truthful, something went awry, and they abandoned the project, they abandoned the site, and, well, just kept it as being labeled as under federal control and a prohibited area for non-authorized personnel. And I guess for some amount of warning to anyone who snuck onto the land, as well, now people just quite literally go on it and use it as a public park. Just put some amount of labeling of beware of pulmonary health risk entering these buildings. Because now that I'm actually thinking about it, yeah, I really am thinking about this. It's very interesting if that signage was just a ruse for trespassing deterrent. Very specific. Very interesting to choose that one, put that signage on all the buildings there, not just say, like with the entrance to the area, unauthorized to non-official personnel, no trespassing or you will be severely reprimanded, for each and every one. That's very interesting. Or just putting a general health hazard warning on maybe some of the buildings. So, yeah, that's the theory I'm running with for that. Because I don't see any other, given the history of the place, I don't see any other explanation for the newer hydro wiring or the building structures. I don't see any reason for that. And you might be asking, well, but Cam, didn't in the last 3 years, okay, the place has clearly been abandoned for more than 3 years. In the last 3 years, the federal government transferred it to Division Agri-Food Canada. Okay, maybe in the last 3 years they renovated the place. Had construction going on there. No, absolutely not. The building structures are far more deteriorated than 3 years. Far more, absolutely. No, even far more than 10 years. They look at least 13 years in breakdown process of the materials used. No, absolutely no way of that. Especially if you looked when I filmed in the former tarp structures, with the plant life growing out from underneath the wooden tables, those shrubs, the branches of them, no way. They're getting to the size of, say, newly plotted trees like this. Absolutely no way. And on top of that, you might be saying, okay, well, that would be disturbing, all that, but again, if it was under control for agricultural usage, to potentially be used for agriculture for years, that could be why they renovated before Agri-Food Canada took it over. No, because they weren't planning on, from what I could find, they weren't planning on doing anything with the land prior to it being transferred over to the Federal Agricultural Ministry 3 years ago. So, and if given from how the electrical units and the building structures, how old they look, no, that doesn't add up. And you might now also be thinking, okay, but Cam, why would they do that? If the land was solely bought up decades back for Ultramar to eventually do something to expand the refinery in some way. or have the refinery be involved in some way with the land. Why would they then, at the same time later on in the early to mid 2000s, use it for harsh pesticide testing? Well, the only thing that I could come up for that is because they can. Because they had taken control of the land for Ultramar and Valero to do something with it. They eventually did something with it with the pipeline, and then agricultural corporations, lobbyists for governmental forces, and the federal government just said, hey, we got this plot of land here with a pipeline running through it. Well, it's sitting there doing nothing. There was a settlement for livestock at one point to actually be quarantined and checked for disease when being transported to the area, and for just stationment for storing until given off to various farmers. So why not? Why not? We're not doing anything with the land, so let's do something in secret, away from the public's eye. Now, on top of that, you might be thinking, well, Cam, but there's residential homes there. People clearly would have seen something going on. Yeah, to some degree you're right there. I don't have an explanation for that. Maybe people are just stupid and oblivious. Oh wait, yeah they are. People are already stupid and oblivious to the fact that there is a highly dangerous pipeline right beside the residential homes. Highly dangerous to their health. And a giant mass carbon emission refinery. That is also a mass, well, for a city the size of Lévis, well, if there was to be an explosive disaster, the equivalent of a mini nuclear bomb, right by your living unit. So, just obliviousness. If people did see something in the early 2000s going on there in terms of construction, maybe there was some amount of press drummed up about it just to cover it up. Maybe there was... Actually, I will look at older photos again. Yeah, maybe there was some tree coverage of that portion there. I don't know. Maybe. But I don't know about that one. So, that's my running thought process with that. Okay. Oh, and if you're wondering why, just for a bit more trivia, why Ultramar's giant refinery, their largest one, is called Jean Galin, who it's named after, well, apparently Jean Galin was a prominent CEO of the corporation many years back. I don't know if they were the first CEO of the corporation or maybe the second, but they were a prominent individual in it. They might have been involved with some amount of the land expansion of the actual refinery in the area they have, in the property that they have now, close by to the Etchman River. But that's all I know about them, so that's just why. Okay, I'm going to walk all the way back down the way I came to showcase that area. Alright, so welcome to Look at Me, I Have Money Center. So, this is a portion of the commercial area of Desjardins with all of it, for the most part, being newer developments. And in that, higher expense rate condos and leasing spaces for some moderate corporate branches to also, though, smaller businesses such as, well, a cafe over there and certain restaurants. However, there are a share of corporate gentrifiers here, as you can see. Interestingly enough, this area specifically here, actually walking through it, reminds me a lot of downtown Toronto. Or maybe, actually, maybe more of the western portion of the Scarborough district, or maybe North York. Slightly, I know there's far too much open space for it to give it the complete feel, but it does somewhat feel like that. Got a similar feeling to an area in New Liverpool here in the city, which I'll show once I'm actually on my way out of Lévis, finally. It's clear too that they're going to be adding more developments, as well. People have seen the clip before my rant. But, well, it looks like, every other lower level elites living spaces, plastic, and I don't know. Oh, yes, and here's a UQAR branch, University of Quebec at Rimouski, I believe it stands for. Their division here in Lévis. I should also, this would be a good time to correct something in a previous an exploration series, specifically in my first part of exploring Longueuil last year. When I was in downtown Longueuil, in the area of the Sherbrooke University branch in the city, I saw, I believe it was, no, was this one? No, it was UQAM? University of Quebec, yeah, I think at Montreal, yep, I think it was, and so it's not at Rimouski. But I saw one of their, either a programs division there at the Sherbrooke branch. It's confusing. I saw a branch placement, something that had to do with their branch placement there, and I thought it was a gym. I thought it was the name of whether a private gym or just a gym facility within the university branch. I thought it was a fitness place. Well, I was completely wrong about that. And yeah, it's rather ridiculous looking back at it now. I didn't know what UQUM, or U whatever it was, stood for at the time. Now I do. Yeah, that was needed information for you to know. Yes. And in regards to this, so when I was here before at this newly developed park, I took note of the fact that it was called Umano Park, and it was, well, in relation to being on the back end, right up to the back of Desjardins corporate campus, and in that the private golf club did a golf in a club golf de Lévis, whatever it's called, a private golf course. That was its name, and I didn't know exactly what it stood for from my recollection at the time, but apparently here in the city, in the downtown area, further a ways, there's a mega corporate medical supplier for various, well, different kinds of medical equipment, mass produced and invasive to some degree or another, called Umano Medical. And the symbol looks very similar, and I'm suspecting that they are a major funder of this park, and thus also having paradeals for development with Desjardins. But I'll have to find that out at a different time. But it's a possibility. So, just clarifying on the name here. Alright, let me actually just get further down a ways and give a silent overview of this area. Do your windows have a greenish tint to them so that when the light from the setting sun, or heck, the rising sun, projects onto it, it has this greenish dinge to it? I hate you. So, it's 2 days after the clips that will have been before this. Why? Well, two days ago, after filming said footage, I had one of the best evenings that I have in a long while. What happened? Well, I attended a dance. Yes. For the last little while, being here in the Viz, I've seen at various small businesses, more so in Old Town, the Viz, posters for an event that was being held in a community center that's, well, a converted church that is in modern day a community center in the Old Town neighborhood. And it just labeled it as a traditional Quebecois cultural dance event. And I took note of the fact that one of the dates displayed was April 20th. And I figured if I had time, after gathering the footage I did, I would drop by and see what it was about. Or, well, yes, how it was. And it was fantastic. It was very comforting in many regards. And yes, I attempted to dance with a group of, well, various groups of people at the event who offered for me to join and try. I was pretty terrible, but granted, many people were uncoordinated as well. And I took footage of the event, and you will see it at the end of the video here. No, none of my dance moves will be displayed. Unfortunate, I know. But I stayed till the event's ending, and I ended up speaking with the organizers of the dance, who were the announcer during the actual, well, event, and in another clip that you'll see, a fiddler. They hosted it and arranged it and put funding together for it. And we got to talking when I met them, and I told them the fact that I was a nomadic traveler, homeless, and they offered for me to stay the night at their house in Old Town in their basement. And at first I was contemplating whether to accept or not because of the temperature, but I ended up doing so, moreover, because I was curious to know more about them. And so we ended up cleaning up. I offered to help clean up the decor, and also just seeing arrangements that were placed in the room they had occupied. And then we left and drove back to their place, and they showed me around. It was a beautiful housing unit that I later found out the next morning they had done most of the construction of themselves in terms of renovations to it. And we talked for a bit in the night. So I slept there. We ate breakfast together the next morning, me and their family, because the two of them, they're a couple. And I talked about things I do, what I get up to in terms of my research and what I do here. And they told me about their livelihoods. And I'm not going to delve into it here. That'll have to be for another video, another time. But they were an incredibly compassionate and incredibly hospitable. They were incredible individuals, and I'm very happy with especially with the dances that they host, what they're trying to do. Their abbreviations are C and M. And M is the fiddler you will see in a separate clip that I took yesterday. So if I put date stamps on here, it's and as I said, it's 2 days from the last bits of footage. And that's because next day, when I got up, it was rather miserable out. It wasn't near as blue-skied and fluffy clouded coverage as it is today. And I ended up getting up to some other activities, staying inside mostly. And I didn't even end up sleeping at my campsite. I slept at a shelter in Old Town for one night again because of the temperature drop. But it wasn't the greatest sleep, and I most likely would have been better off actually in my tent. But, so now, it's 2 days later. And on top of that, in relation to the organizers, C&M, before I left, they gave me this raincoat for the weather. They told me that I could keep it if I wanted, because it was old, but I told them, no, it's alright, I have more than enough clothes anyway. Thank you for this, and I'll return it tomorrow, so today, which I still intend to do. But, for now, For now, continuing on with the explorations for this video. So 2 days ago I showcased more upper middle class area of the commercial portion of Desjardins. Now, where am I going? Well, First, today we're heading to a park, a private park that I didn't know existed for the longest while. So recently, that is owned and operated by Valéro Corporation. Yeah. And it's specifically called Parc Valéro and Icarts. Oh, Parc Valéro and Icarts. And yeah, I'll talk about it more once I actually get to it, which I'd look to find the entrance to where it is. It's down this road here. In also very much more so upper middle class residential area right by the commercial area. It's tucked back a ways. I don't doubt it. Okay. If there's a fee to get in, okay, maybe I'll try to. If I can sneak onto the property, I will. I'll give it a briefest attempt. If there's not going to be any easy way to do that, I'll forget about it. I just want to go down and showcase at least the entrance of it, because I don't want to waste my time on it. Frankly, I've had enough of being close to Ultramar and Valéro's properties. But yeah, this area is pseudo-segregated off. Wouldn't you know it? Wouldn't you guess from over there on the other side of Boulevard Guillaume Couture? Because that's the beginning of Old Town, with very much impoverished lower middle class residents. And on top of going here, I'm also going to showcase a portion of the Desjardins district in the southern half that is called the Pénitentiaire Corridor. Oh, le corridor pénitentiaire. And it's a very, very thin stretch of urban development that runs outward from the city's main municipal body. And then afterwards, we're going to go back into Old Town to showcase something in relation to, here in Lévis, Desjardins' head office campus, and in Quebec City, from what can be seen across the ways from this side of the river, Fairmont-le-Château Frontenac. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Alright. Onward and slightly upward. Because of course you are. So, this is Parc Valéro, less e-carts. My mistake on the name, I thought on the map it said N e-carts. Or maybe they slightly altered the given title, I don't know. And well, from the looks of it, it's I'm gonna be honest, it's a worse version of Stille Chittery Falls Park. Honestly. In terms of, well, I don't want to say keeping care of the place, as I would have been for it just being left to naturally grow, but obviously that isn't the case. Yeah, these aren't all along these human constructed paths. These trees did not fall or break naturally. But no entrance fee, so that's a plus. Okay, so if I understood some amount of the little bronze display board out there, the park was either opened and commemorated to, or just commemorated to former CEO of Ultramar, Jean Guéline, which I will mention the refinery here in the Viz is named after. Either that, or, well, maybe they initially, as a performative incentivization decision to the public, well, bought up the initial land area and opened the actual park up initially. And then after they had died, they named it after them. Not sure. But, yeah, I don't really have much to say about this place other than it's a load of performative environmentalism. That's all it is. Yeah, there's nothing more to say about it. This is fake, that's fake, over there, it's all fake. Given the fact that this is literally, okay, this is a large patch of woods, and which makes up the park's landmass. And from what I can see from an aerial view on satellite images, it is I think it could be counted as technically the biggest park in the city. Either that or I have to look again. Actually, you know what? Let me do that. Let me look again. Okay, just checked. Either this park is the largest in the city, or Parc Regional de la Pointe de la Maritime, if I'm pronouncing it right in my vernacular, is the largest. One of the two. And that park is on the far eastern side of Lévis in Lausanne, right at the outskirts of the city, actually. And where this park is situated is within, okay, in terms of districtal borders in the municipality, it's technically, most of it is a part of the Desjardins district. However, over a ways this way, let's see if we can get to it, and that's all I'll be doing here, and then leaving, because I don't particularly care to spend much time here. So over here towards its western half is right up against a public, apparently municipally operated golf course that's in the Hadlow district, neighborhood of Saint David de la Brevoire. And it is right next to, right on the other side of the road from the refinery. In exploring Lévis Part 1, maybe behind some of the row of buildings, maybe it was somewhat visible in the dark, maybe not. But well, I found it interesting. I thought at first, when I had looked at the golf course, that it was privatized, specifically by Ultramar. But no, it's public, apparently, but no doubt the land that the course is on is private. It is, from everything I could find, technically a part of, well, this portion of land owned by, well, not Ultramar. It's not Ultramar's property, it's Valéro's. Just like this. The only thing seems that is, well, Ultramar's main construction, and they have direct control over, well, as all these, all the corporations have indirect control over. Well, okay, no, they have direct control. You know what I mean? Less direct control, you could say, I guess, over governmental sectors. Oh yeah, the pipeline. Yeah, all Ultramar has control over in terms of privatization would be the pipeline that runs through the federal territory. And even despite my theory of secretive, dangerous chemical pesticide testing being done there at one point, I have to say, yeah, JC Chapai Farm even with it being in ruins, looks, and potentially being contaminated with potentiality of pesticide usage, artificial pesticide, and that of a crude oil pipeline being placed through it. It looks in better condition. Okay. Well, you might have taken notice, there's markers throughout the paved pathways. What's this? Are you a sticker someone put on here, or is that actually part of the design? No, that's actually part of the design. Okay. I'm not gonna ask, Valero. Why bother? Oh yes, and what the sign just said out at the entrance, that this forest is under surveillance, I highly doubt that. I think camouflaged cameras, okay, hunting cameras, or cameras that are sold typically to more globally standardized middle class rural hunters set up on properties that are camouflaged to the environment. Typically, anyone who's more observant can see them protruding from the trees. You know, the block kind with the lens right in the center? So I highly doubt it. Unless you also have your own private mini park ranger service, which I have not seen as of yet. What's this? Fat bike Lévis. What? Okay. Okay. No, I get it. It's just your way of being cutesy. It's just your way of thinking you're hip and cool and radical with the kids. Uh-huh. Yeah, okay. Guess it's supposed to be their version of a skate park ramp for people to do trick shots on. And this, what is this? What? The slightly slanted and protruding rock is that. Okay. And you. Well, okay. Yeah, minimalistic. Sanded wood, yeah, okay, fine. But if it comes from anywhere around here, Valero and Ultramar, well, I don't doubt the inner cores of some of these trees are highly diseased or decaying. Okay, let's get a move on this way. A maple tree. Well, if you're still able to produce, I strongly advise anyone to not drain you for sap to be boiled into syrup. Well, I haven't seen one of these or made one of these myself in a long while. A stone cairn. Well, this is one little pleasantry of this place. It's very well stacked. Don't want to unsettle the rock and accidentally tip it. It actually blends in very naturally to the environment around here. They picked very good stones, and also seems very easy to balance ones. Nice. Very cute. Oh, and look at that. Wow. What a view. How beautiful. What a sight to behold on a lovely nature walk. Wow. This really does beat out whatever semblance of a viewpoint I had, or I could get, from actually being on the refinery's grounds. So, hopefully here's some clear images. Obviously nowhere near as close and personal to them, but even so, somewhat better. Kinda, well, no. The effort I put in to get the footage I did and see if there was anything of note was worth it. Which technically I actually did find something of note, with the fact of them clearly doing some sort of excavations to the gravel somewhere behind this smokestack here, or smog stack, this would be a more fitting word. But I said guesses could be either they were burying some waste from the facilities they want to dispose of, as is typical of companies like Ultramar and Valéro, or maybe adding some sort of constructing an extension to the rail yard that they have over there for their tanker trains. Or maybe they were digging up gravel to use as sedimentary foundations for placement of some maybe scaffolding structures within the facility. I'm not sure, but something of note at least. But yeah, much better view. Okay, and we're leaving. I don't want to spend any more time here. It's figuratively nauseating. Well, you all look like you've been newly planted. You also look way too healthy for, well, at least too vibrant for this time of year. No clue what type of shrub life you are. Something of note. Uh-huh. Why? Because of your fresh plotting of these plants that most likely did not naturally occur here in terms of seasonal growth, but nonetheless to some degree can survive. Very much possible. Behold, the most pointless bridge to have ever been built in the history of humanity. I mean it. Wow. Wow. What? Wow. What a waste. Really? And this is new. They clearly put this in new. This is fresh wood. Oh, smooth too. Oh. Wow. What were you covering? What were you trying to... What, the non-existent stream? For the pitiful excuse of a body of water over here, the little marsh that you can easily step over, even if there was a bit more water flow from, say, rainfall or runoff from melting snow. Oh. You know what this place is? You know what it's the equivalent of? Hello, squirrel. How are you doing? Well, okay. I guess that answered my question. Or maybe it didn't. Maybe you're mad at me. Or afraid of me. I'm very sorry. I remember looking up zoologically something in regards to squirrel calls. I forget what that one is, but I've heard it before. Anyway, you know what this place is the equivalent of? This is the nature park equivalent of the episode of SpongeBob SquarePants where Mr. Krabs decides to increase profit margin by creating a cheap, poorly constructed, dangerous theme park called Krabbyland with its very own mascot, Krusty the Clown. But all I'm seeing here is bureaucracy the birch tree. Okay, I don't know. Okay, we are out. Thankfully so. But, well, not yet in any less of a appalling area to look at. Well, this is a very uniquely designed home. Pretty much just an enlarged attic, at least, well, in terms of its design, and very much elongated roof. This more standardized middle class area. Wonder if they had it either self-renovated or maybe hired out a local contractor. I'm not sure. Okay, so now that I'm heading into Old Town, but have to pass through a portion of the commercial area, I want you, from this angle right here, to take a look at Desjardins campus. Just take a look at it. All right. Now, as I walk to a certain vantage point, I will explain why, to also demonstrate what I will explain for Chateau Frontenac, specifically in regards to purposely how the buildings are placed and location-wise where the developments have been built up. Right, so just stopped to eat and charge my phone, So, let me explain what I want you to notice. So, in regards to where, okay, since you can see them both easily enough, I'm standing here. If I can get to where this tree isn't in the way, obscuring the view, okay, good enough. So, where these two landmark buildings are placed, where they've been constructed, from all vantage points, or, well, for Frontenac, from most vantage points, and for Desjardins, well, where it's visible pretty well, yeah. They both appear to be rather large, well, building complexes, given their, well, what appears to be their height and width. And in pretty well any publicity photos, tourist advertisement, photography that you can find online, they appear, any of the, well, popular images, showcase them as being these towering structures, especially as well as, well, here for Desjardins in Lévis, and from below in Old Town Quebec, in Quebec City, looking up from those specific areas, they appear to be rather tall. Well, even from most vantage points, Desjardins still obviously, well, it is a low-hanging skyscraper, and appears to be such, but tall enough nonetheless compared to most other more heightened buildings here in the Viz, and same with Frontenac. Actually, from here, you could argue Frontenac appears a little, its main tower appears taller than Desjardins. And those who have traveled to Quebec City or here to Lévis, domestically or internationally, might say that, well, yes, they are, in my opinion, Cam, quite large and towering structures, as I've been close by them. I've been to the, well, prominent tourist areas of the cities, and I could say that, yes, they are rather big. Actually, they're not. At least, as far as I'm concerned, they're not as large as they appear to be. Now, I just recently noticed this from being, well, for Desjardins being, well, just walking in any close proximity to their campus, and for the Chateau Frontenac, walking around here in Old Town Lévis. So, right now I'm standing on Terrasse de Lévis. And, well, with the setting sun I might be blinding a bit, but okay, let's see if I can no, well, you can see its silhouette. Okay. Frontenac appears to have a wider base. It looks rather like where it's positioned on the cliff sides of the North Shore. It looks like it takes up a good portion of space above Old Town. And the main tower looks almost on par with, well, most of the other skyscrapers, low-hanging or the two further more towering towers. Towering towers? Yeah, okay. Towering skyscrapers in the city, or even say the few that are over in that direction. But, and just the same with Desjardins, it is an optical illusion. If you research or you're interested in architecture and architechnology, you may be familiar with a certain... Okay, well, here, actually, hold on. It's better. Well, yeah, okay. Better view, well enough. Maybe if I... Okay, well, you can... Cam, why didn't you do that? Oh, that's why. Get back a bit. Come on, come on. Okay, you can see the base well enough of structure. Anyway, if you've researched architectural development, you might be familiar with a certain corporate construction tactic that is done by a number of prominent megacorporate contracting companies, specifically for the purposes of drumming up tourism. Well, for the tourism industry, because they have pair deals with megacorporations in that realm of economics all across the world. I don't recall the technical term for the tactic, but, well, keywords I guess you could try searching up, just building optical illusions, or, oh, well, no, here, you could type in Disney Castle construction optical illusions if you want to try, because this tactic is routinely used. It's actually, I think this could probably be the most notable example in the modern world. This tactic of construction is continuously done by Disney Entertainment Corporation, or specifically their development agencies. It is done specifically in regards to their famous castle structures for their various amusement parks. What is it, you might be asking? If you don't know, well, getting Laurie out, this will be a better view of it. Well, basically, the trick is, specifically what is done is when a corporation, development company, has done paradeals with real estate sellers to buy up a plot of land and build a structure on it, most often a building space of some kind for an attraction, a building that is specifically for touristic themes, or an office complex, or a hotel, condos, any things of the sort. What they will do is they will have divisions of their layout planners for design, specifically prominent within their corporate worlds, architectologists. They will actually have teams of them go around the regional area within a certain amount of proximity to where the structure is going to go up, and specifically they will map out, they will chart out and take visual observation of where is the best location, let's just for simplicity's sake say in a cityscape. They will go to areas where it can, said structure for when it is built can be plainly seen overall, and they will tailor the construction and specifically the design as well, or specifically to mention, before even purchasing up a plot of land in collusion with their real estate friends, they will look at an open area that would be on the market within an area in a city, and they will try and find a spot that would also be keenly visible from other locations within the surrounding area. What they will do is, once the construction is underway, in the design plans, they will purposely try to build the structure to make it appear as if it is larger than it actually is, from the vantage points that the planners and technologists and engineer and executive engineer overseers and all the rest, where they've looked at it from to drum up tourism. It's done all the time, especially by Disney. And okay, I'm gonna zoom in again. Oh, damn you, son, you're pretty, but okay. You can see the you can see the silhouette of the chateau. From here, it looks rather lengthwise and widthwise. It looks like it takes up it looks like it'd be the size of, say, an average North American corporate mega corporate mall complex. It looks like that. And conveniently, from the position here in the city of Lévis, where the tourist attraction of the terrace is, to purposely display Old Town Quebec City. And also from down here at the Lévis Wharf. But if we go down a ways, and not terribly far, but to a portion of Old Town Lévis that isn't advertised at all for those visiting, that's just up the other side of the cliff slope. I was able to find an area where Frontenac's optical illusion breaks down. Oh, come on. Okay. Yeah, you can see it from this distance. So, I'm gonna periodically turn the camera back over to face the structure as we walk along the waterfront. And interesting thing to note as well, down here is the old housing unit of a prominent, well, business entrepreneur from far back in, I believe, the early 1910s maybe, who started the prominent shipping transport corporation that's down in the Lausanne district that I showcased when I went to the Vieux-Lausanne ghetto. It's, well, called Chantier Davy. And, well, Chantier Davy is said business official. I just thought I'd throw that in. Just as some trivia. It's yet another bit of socioeconomic praise to a mass exploitative individual. But on a positive note, I will say, and I believe I mentioned this in part 1 actually, and I also specifically talked about this in part 3 of this series, how something that I'm very happy about at the least is that a good portion of housing units, apartment flats along the port of Lévis are, well, in the range of affordability for predominantly lower middle class individuals. As you can see, most of the building structures, while stable, are not extensively well maintained, other than, well, you know, parts where there isn't much pseudo-segregation in this city. And they've reactivated this public attraction. I don't know what it's specifically supposed to be. It might be representing a hot air balloon made out of metal piping with LED lights. I have no clue. Okay, here, right, still looking rather large, still looking to be girthy in its perimeter, and yeah, the main center tower looks rather tall still. In fact, actually from here, it looks almost at equal length with the skyscrapers. Sorry, not length, height. Almost equal height. But that'll change. I either didn't notice this before, or maybe because of, well, the warmer season coming, they've just done this now. There's now 2 ferries operating as transport across the St. Lawrence River. When I was first here, well, if it was set up that way, I didn't notice that. I didn't notice another boat. Now there is. I still, just to clarify, in terms of actually going into Quebec City, I still haven't yet. Well, I crossed over to the North Shore with the person I was staying with, and they're looking after their apartment whilst they were there for the time they were to go on a 2-day trip with them somewhere else, but not actually going into the city, just through on the highway. We didn't pull off anywhere, and we were out very quickly. So, and that I have not taken the ferries, nor do I particularly want to, as, well, in terms of pricing, and 2, in terms of supporting. But, so, just to clarify, when I do leave Lévis at the end of this month, it will be across the connecting bridge. Ah yes. The historique National de Chanteur Pesticide. This housing unit here, the beige one, was Davy's old house. Some of the history. I was fairly right with the time period. This, I think, I don't think this is the... Oh no, yeah, it's definitely been rebuilt. This is a remodeling of whatever. Maybe it might have been the engine house. Okay. It might have been to actually a towing line to drag in the sailing ships that pulled into port. Yeah, okay, that definitely looks like what it is, or was, but it's a reconstruction. So is this little shack here. And there's the house. Yeah, another shrine in the city to something that is... Oh, what it is. Okay, now let's look here. Okay. Oh good, you can actually see it a bit more. So, right over here is its... Well, from the front face, it's... My finger will ever get in the film. From the way I'm facing, the left side of it. And you might be starting to notice it's looking a bit more squished and compact than it did down that way. And that'll continue as we go up the hill. This side not, the right side not so much yet, but it will. It will when you actually, okay, so to clarify as well, where Terrace de Lévis is, that's not Frontenac's front face of its structure. The front face is, well, the portion along here that we'll get a better view of up on the hill. That's its front, where, well, in terms of looking out from the elitist residents that stay there on travel, and I think as well from images I've seen of the platform there, one of the main entrances is. But, yeah, I just thought I'd clarify that. Once I go up back to the commercial area to get into the Penitentiaire corridor, I'll try and get a good enough angle of Desjardins tower front. Okay. Maybe looking somewhat smaller. Yep, even the right side, to me at least, it's beginning to look more compacted. Let's run up a bit. I still have no clue what this factory facility is that's pumping mass fossil emissions. But I'll find out once I actually get across the ways. Okay, we're getting close. Can't see it as well yet. Oh well, you can actually see the building clearly now, but Not completely what I'm describing. But I know for a fact that you're noticing that it appears to be compacting on itself the more I move eastbound from the terrace. Okay, so here we are, right by Rue Montcalm in Lévis. Okay, oh damn, that was a drop. Okay, see if I can get it right. A good angle. All right. And boom. Look at that. Look at that. Look how puny it looks now. Compared to what it did down a ways. So its base, what looked like to be the size from over there of a average North American mall complex, now is, well, clearly you can see width-wise is it's a good comparison. Actually, okay, there. That building over there, that might be a hospital. That might be a hospital in the Moilu district, Quebec City. It's actually almost the exact same width of that hospital building, or that building. It's only a little bit longer. And its tower, well, doesn't appear so tall anymore. From, at least considering now, higher on the hill, and from facing the front, where it is. And I should also, okay, yeah, that's it right there. You can see it ways here. Yeah, there's the terrace. It's a bit higher than where I'm positioned right now. Well, this portion of the cliffside is almost level with Frontenac's base, where it is on the cliffside of the North Shore. And yeah, it doesn't look near as tall as from over there, over where I was. Now you might say, okay, well, what about the skyscraper behind it? I also don't know what building that is, what purpose it serves. But that tall building, well, the tower looks like it's almost at even height with it. Well, no, actually, because guess what? All these buildings here, along here, and there, that building too, are further back than Frontenac. And they are not, they're not in Old Town Quebec City. They're in downtown Quebec City, but towards a neighborhood called, I actually think it is called Montcalm, like the road over here. They're behind Frontenac, and they're lower on the cliff ridge, because the cliff ridge on the North Shore does not just run along the waterfront. It runs along the back end behind all this as well. It's basically a good portion of downtown Quebec City, and then the district, I believe, of Saint-Sauveur, and then, well, and the neighborhood of Montcalm, and even a portion of the district of St. Foy are up on this ridge, I guess you could call it. Whereas these buildings, part of the downtown, are below said ridge. If you look on an aerial view, they're below it. So the only reason that that skyscraper, or these ones over here, are at level with Frontenac's tower is because where the base of those buildings is, well, it's lower on the landmass. Well, the base isn't at the same height as Frontenac's base. It's lower. If they were positioned in terms of the foundations on the same level of land, those buildings would be way taller than Frontenac. So, yeah. Just want to point that out as an example that you can notice from over here. And yes, this area, don't know if you could tell, this portion is not well advertised for, I think, obvious reasons. Okay, now let's begin heading down to the corridor and see if I can get better footage of the front of Desjardins. Alright, change of plans. I'm unfortunately not going to have enough time to go down and showcase the Penitentiary corridor tonight. I'll have to do that at some point, probably at the end of, or in the other half of the next part of the series. But I will cap this off, go closer towards Desjardins, and also showcase the community center that the dance was held in for certain reasons. Right, so I was actually incorrect on something. So the skyscraper behind here, no, that's not the one. Nope. This building here, which is very clearly the tallest building in all of Quebec City, is actually not below actually looking at it on an area view, it's not looking at further. It's not actually really a cliffside on the other edge. It's more, so this is a hill crest where all of downtown Quebec City is in a portion, the upper portion of Old Town Quebec is on this hill crest, and down here on the North Shore at the port is, well, the drop off of the cliff. So it is up actually on the hill crest here, but it's still not on the same base level as Chateau Frontenac, as this portion here of Old Town Quebec City is actually all sitting on the former fortress that was there, which I'll save this for when I get into Quebec City, discussing how there's a misconception that I had thought for a while as well, as I had been told this, and it's kind of actually promoted, and it's not truthful, that Frontenac was originally a fortress. It wasn't. It sits on the old Quebec fortress right beside the citadel of Quebec. But anyway, Frontenac is on, its base is, it sits on the old fortress of Quebec City, and it's at an elevated level on the hill crest to that of, say, the buildings over here. So it's not as tall as them. It's elevated. Okay, I just wanted to point that out. Now on to the front, or trying to showcase the front of Desjardins. Right, so we're at a bit of a almost even level with the campus's, well, most of the building's base. It's not exactly front. Okay. Alright, well. So, if you, from the clip I took earlier, if you saw where it was positioned within the commercial area, you might have taken notice how not taller, that's obvious, how much taller overall the buildings are, especially the tower, compared to, well, literally any other building previously, except for now a new condo development that's going up by a corporation called Dynamo, which, well, once that building's done being developed, well, it'll overtake Desjardins' title for the tower being the tallest building in the city. But I'm not talking about the actual structure's height. I'm talking about in terms of the land placement, where exactly it sits. If you will have noticed, or from what you could see from where I was, all the buildings on the campus are at a higher, well, you could call it a higher altitude, slightly, than any of the others, in the very least close proximity to it in the area. And that's not just true for this area, for the Desjardins district. That is true for the entirety of the city where it's geographically located. This point here is, this hill crest is the highest point in all of Lévis in terms of its municipal body, other than, well, it's the highest point that has any urbanization done to it, any higher levels, any hills in this portion of the Chideri Appalachians region on the South Shore that rival this area, and specifically within the cityscape, don't have any developments on them at all. It's just forest. So this is the highest point with any sort of construction that has been done to it. And in that, let's see if I can get closer this way. In that, from looking up the history and seeing images of its history photographed, it is clear that the corporate executives of Caisse Populaire in collusion with their partnered development enterprises clearly chose the highest point once they had reached the status of moderate corporation in terms of yearly net growth. They clearly, okay, this is the best I can do right now for positioning. They clearly chose a spot that could be seen visibly throughout almost the entirety of Lévis. And it makes it look taller than it actually is, but being at level with the tower now, already obviously being, as I said, a low-hanging skyscraper, it should be obvious that it's no taller than, honestly, down a ways. It's only a little taller than most, even of the standardized middle-class catering, or in terms of affordability, apartment complexes that are maybe towards the downtown area or New Liverpool, or maybe as well in some amount. Well, not really. No, not really in Charney, but okay. Well, down a ways, even here in the Desjardins district, going into Vieux-Lévis, it's only slightly taller. And interestingly enough, one last bit of trivia before I sign this video off. Looking into this further, their corporate head office is a new, this isn't the tower. The famous tower of the city is a new development, relatively new. Within the it's only been standing for the last maybe 10 years or so. Because prior to about maybe, I believe, 2011, from looking at images as far back as 2005, 2006, their original corporate office that was here on the campus was almost in the same position as it is now, but a bit further back from where I'm standing. But it not only was puny, it had almost no height. It was, I believe it was only maybe 2 or 3 floors. It was the most miniature building out of all the other currently 5 that are on their campus grounds. Even smaller than the highly built up just banking branch they have closer to the intersection down there. It was petite. It was as tall as the base of the tower is. In fact, actually, that might be a bit of the, they might have used a portion of the old head office as just the base for the tower. From the images I saw, I don't think that is the original building because the positioning is kind of off. But, yeah. So, again, another optical illusion. Okay. Wow. This is also a pretty good view. Alright. So, there are more things I wanted to discuss. I'll say that for the next part. I'm going to go get some shut-eye. And then do whatever I do come tomorrow. And oh yes, no, wait, almost forgot. So this converted church down here in Old Town is where the dance was held. And on top of that, another clip you will see, a clip where you actually see M playing the fiddle, was a community dinner that was hosted here, and they do it, I believe, once a month. That was held in the gymnasium of it. And the facilities are very nice. They're very well kept. It's called Parc de Lévis. And well, it is definitely the best community center that I've been in so far, in terms of the fact that the space that's been used. It's been renovated and things of the sort. But sadly, well, you can't see it too well here. One corporate name, but here you can see it. Yeah. I believe I took a clip of this place, the front of it, when I was showcasing how many entities Desjardins funds provides funding for them to survive in their activities financially throughout the city. And this place was one of them, but I think the original display board had been taken off. You could just see the remnants of the plastic lettering. Well, didn't realize it at the time. Valéro funds this community center. I don't know if they just fund it or if they actually are in a portion in control of operations, because it's operated by a independent organization just simply called Parc de Lévis. But I wonder if they take, well, okay, obviously they take an amount of orders from Valéro if they're funding them. But if they have, in terms of official executive control, if they also operate the facilities in some way, I don't know. Oh yes, but let's go up the front. Desjardins, along with Valéro, finance the place. By this point, obviously, well, this shouldn't come as a surprise if you've been keeping up with what I've been showcasing in this city. Here's a better view of newer signage. Yeah. Partners in crime. Just like Valéro and Ultramar. Sadly, in some way, I guess this adds a bit of insult to injury to the fantastic evening 2 nights ago, but that doesn't ruin it at all. I never let things like this ruin it for me anymore. Alright. Enjoy the next few clips and have a good night.
Salut,